Welcome to the deep dive. I want you to picture something for me.
Okay.
Imagine you have just purchased a brand new, highly anticipated video game console.
Best feeling in the world.
Right. But instead of plugging it into your television or, holding it in your hands like a normal Game Boy or whatever, you are strapping this gaming console directly onto your head.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you secure this thick, really tight elastic band right around your skull. You flip down a small translucent plastic lens so it sits right in front of your right eye.
Just the right
Just the right eye. And suddenly you are staring at these glowing dark red graphics just floating in your field of vision.
Sounds very sci-fi.
It does, until you realize that to control the action, you are tethered to a plastic controller in your hands by a thick cable that is exactly 2.5 feet long.
Oh, no. That's a recipe for disaster.
It really is.
I mean, it sounds like a rejected prop from some low-budget cyberpunk movie.
Yeah.
But this was a very real, very heavily marketed consumer product.
Exactly. Today, we are taking a deep dive into the Tiger Electronics R-Zone.
Ah, the R-Zone.
Yeah. This was a portable game console that lived an incredibly short and chaotic life, basically, from 1995 to 1997.
Very short lifespan.
Yeah. And our source material today is a really comprehensive Wikipedia article that breaks down the games, the truly bizarre hardware variations they released over that 2-year period, and of course the absolutely brutal critical reception this device got.
And our mission today goes beyond just marveling at a failed gadget.
Right.
We're examining how companies attempt to package very old, primitive technology inside trendy, futuristic form factors.
Yeah, masquerading as innovation.
Exactly. The R-Zone is a masterclass in what happens when a business prioritizes a visual gimmick over actual technological advancement. It teaches us a lot about the line between true innovation and clever, or in this case, not so clever packaging.
Okay, let's unpack this. Set the scene for us. When did this thing actually hit the market, and what was the initial pitch to consumers?
So the year was 1995. The original R-Zone headgear model was officially unveiled to the world at the American International Toy Fair. And the setup was wild. You had this head-mounted unit that strapped around your forehead. The actual game cartridge was inserted directly into this headset.
Way into the headset itself.
Right into the headset. And inside that cartridge was a transparent LCD screen. The R-Zone unit would shine a light through the cartridge, projecting the LCD screen onto a mirrored surface that you positioned right in front of your eye.
The visual of someone wearing this is just incredible to think about.
It's very goofy.
But why this specific design? I mean, why the headset and the glowing red graphics?
What's fascinating here is the timing and the aesthetic choices. The mid-90s saw a massive explosion of interest in virtual reality.
Oh, yeah, the VR craze.
Exactly. And Nintendo was generating an enormous amount of industry buzz with the Virtual Boy, which was hitting the market around the exact same time.
Right.
And the Virtual Boy also featured a headset and relied entirely on a stark red and black graphic color scheme.
That cannot be a coincidence.
Well, Tiger Electronics never officially confirmed this theory. But the prevailing thought among gaming historians is that the entire design of the R-Zone was a deliberate attempt to ride the coattails of Nintendo's marketing.
Just skimming off the top of that hype.
Yeah, Tiger clearly wanted a piece of that futuristic mindshare, and they wanted it fast.
But the reality of what the R-Zone actually was,
Yeah.
I mean, the contrast between the futuristic VR-style headgear and what was actually under the hood is just staggering.
It really is.
If I'm a kid in 1995 putting this on, what kind of processing power am I actually strapping to my brain?
Well, under the hood might be a very generous phrase here.
Dare no.
Because from a technical standpoint, the console itself had absolutely no microprocessor.
None at all.
None. It had no internal memory whatsoever. The head unit you strapped on was essentially just a front polarizer for the LCD, a single mono speaker, and a shift register to handle the controls. That was the entire machine.
Wait, hold on. A shift register, a front polarizer.
Yeah.
For those of us who aren't electrical engineers, what does that actually mean for the player?
Simply put, the headset itself didn't think. It didn't compute graphics or process game logic.
Okay.
The shift register was basically just a very simple traffic cop. It routed the electrical signals from the buttons you pressed on the controller up the wire to the headset.
And the polarizer.
The polarizer was just a filter to make the light readable. All of the actual computing components, the microcontroller itself, all of that was stuffed entirely inside each individual game cartridge.
So the console was literally just a flashlight and a mirror attached to a headband.
That is a remarkably accurate way to describe it, honestly.
Wow.
The transparent center of the game cartridge allowed the internal light to pass through, and the console just reflected that light off the specialized mirror to the player's eye.
Let's talk about those graphics, because the term video game feels like a bit of a stretch here.
A huge stretch.
To really help you visualize what this looked like in practice, imagine a standard digital alarm clock. You know how the number 8 on a digital clock is made up of those little rigid segments?
Yeah, the little blocks.
Right. And to make a number 3, the clock doesn't draw in shape. It just turns off the 2 segments on the left side.
That is the exact underlying technology at play here.
So the R Zone did the exact same thing, but instead of straight lines forming numbers, the segments were shaped like little black outlines of characters.
Yep.
The graphics were completely pre-drawn and permanently set into the LCD itself.
Permanent, they couldn't change shape.
Right. The console wasn't rendering pixels moving across a screen like a Game Boy. It was just darkening or lighting up different pre-drawn segments of the display at different times to fake the illusion of animation.
It is the absolute definition of a technological sleight of hand. They took the exact same clicky-beepy LCD technology from a decade prior.
From the 80s.
Right, the kind you'd find in those cheap standalone handheld games from the 1980s, and they simply changed how the light passed through it. They basically projected an 80s calculator screen onto a 90s mirror.
I just can't get over the ergonomics of this either, specifically the controller.
She was so flawed.
You have this headset on, and you are tethered to the controller by a cable that is 2.5 feet long.
30 inches.
Imagine getting super into an intense action game, instinctively throwing your arms up in victory, and just violently yanking the entire console right off your own forehead.
The physical limitations were severe, and the controller layout itself was equally bizarre.
How many buttons did it have?
You had 10 face buttons on this tethered controller, plus a directional pad allowing for 4 directions of movement.
10 face buttons for a calculator screen.
Exactly. The bottom buttons were mostly universal functions. You had start select sound to toggle the mono audio and pause to pause the game.
There's also an on button, which is my favorite little detail.
The on-end button is a brilliant example of redundant engineering.
Because it didn't even need it.
No, inserting a game cartridge automatically turned the unit on anyway, making the on-end button largely useless.
Amazing.
You also had a volume dial, a brightness dial, and a storage slot on the controller to keep an extra game cartridge protected.
And it took AAA batteries, right?
Yes, it required 4 AAA batteries to power this entire experience.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If the hardware is basically an alarm clock strapped to your skull, how did they convince kids to actually buy this thing? What was the hook?
They used the oldest trick in the consumer electronics playbook. Massive intellectual properties.
The licenses.
Right. Instead of selling the technology, they sold the brands. Tiger Electronics went out and secured licenses for some of the absolute biggest blockbuster movies and video games of the 1990s.
The lineup was crazy.
The R Zone launched with titles like Batman Forever, Mortal Kombat 3, Star Wars Virtua Fighter Men in Black, and The Lost World Jurassic Park.
Those are industry titans. I mean, you see Mortal Kombat 3 on a box in 1995, you're begging your parents for it.
The software lineup was completely dominated by these massive titles. And they had even more ambitious plans that never saw the light of day.
Really? Like what?
The source notes, several canceled games that show the sheer scale of their licensing efforts. They were working on A Bug's Life, Alien vs. Predator Godzilla, Sonic R, and Star Trek.
Sonic R on the R Zone, that would have been something.
They were throwing huge money at these licenses to legitimize the device.
I'm trying to visualize playing a deep, complex fighting game like Mortal Kombat 3 on this. How did the controls even work if every single punch and kick had to be a pre-drawn, permanent segment on the screen?
Well, they relied on a very rigid universal control scheme that basically shoehorned every genre into the exact same mechanics.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the face buttons on the right side of the controller were labeled A, B, C, and D. In almost every game, these mapped to a 4-direction attack scheme.
Okay.
Pressing C, attack to the left, D, attacked up, B, attack to the right, and A either attack down or... incredible. In some games, it just did nothing at all.
The disconnect between reading the name Virtua Fighter on a box and the actual experience of playing it on the R Zone must have been soul-crushing.
Absolutely.
You have fighting games, racing games, action-adventure movie tie-ins, but you are saying they all basically played exactly the same.
Fundamentally, yes. Because the graphics had to be pre-drawn on the LCD, you were restricted to the exact same type of basic segmented movement regardless of the license.
You just couldn't do combos.
No, you couldn't have complex combos or steering mechanics. You just watched a pre-drawn shape flash, and you pressed a button to make another pre-drawn shape flash in response.
I want you to really put yourself in the shoes of a kid in the mid-90s. You finally convince your parents to buy the newest, hottest Batman Forever tie-in game.
Best day ever.
Right. You strap on this futuristic headset, you power it up, and you realize you were playing the exact same choppy, unanimated game you played last year, just with a different plastic sticker on the cartridge and a slightly different pre-drawn character flashing red in your eye.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of consumer electronics, it reveals a fascinating, albeit cynical business strategy.
How so?
Tiger Electronics was historically a toy company, not a high-end tech manufacturer. Their insight was that children buy brands, not microprocessors.
That makes a lot of sense.
Instead of upgrading the internal technology, perhaps adding actual processing power or pixel-based rendering to compete with Nintendo or Sega Tiger, reacted to the inevitable market pushback by rapidly pivoting the hardware design itself.
Yeah, rather than making the games better, they just made the plastic shell different.
Exactly. The R-Zone saw an incredibly fast succession of bizarre iterations.
So the variations are the best part of this whole story. It feels like absolute panic at the corporate level.
Total panic.
So the original headset launched in late 1995. The retail price was $29.99, but by late 1996, they were already scrambling to fix the fact that nobody wanted to actually wear this thing. Enter the R-Zone Super Screen.
The Super Screen was a massive departure. It also retailed for $29.99, but they abandoned the headgear concept entirely.
Thank goodness.
It was a tabletop unit that used lighted rear projection. It blew up the screen size considerably so that other people could actually watch you play.
Because with the headset, only you could see it.
Right, that was a major flaw of the headset. Only the person wearing it could see the mirror at the precise required angle.
And the Super Screen supposedly added color, right? But I use the word color very loosely here.
Very loosely. It didn't actually make the games themselves colorized. Some games allowed you...
And they actually changed the controller for this one, swapping out the traditional D-pad for 4 separate directional buttons. But that wasn't even their weirdest pivot in late 1996. We also got the R-Zone Data Zone.
The Data Zone represents a company just throwing darts at a board to see what sticks.
Truly.
This was a flat, handheld version of the console. It featured a backlight, so it completely abandoned the mirror projection gimmick.
Which is probably for the best.
But inexplicably, they included a data organizer built right into the gaming console.
A data organizer. For an elementary school kid.
Yes.
What kind of data was a 10-year-old organizing in 1996? The phone numbers of the 3 kids in their cul-de-sac.
It's a baffling combination of features. It speaks to the mid-90s craze of personal digital assistants or PDAs. Tiger was just smashing 2 completely unrelated trends together.
Hoping something would work.
Exactly. And the power requirements for the Data Zone were equally strange. It used one small watch battery constantly running just to store the organizer data, and then required 2 separate AAA batteries to actually run the video games.
What a nightmare for parents. And if the Super Screen and the Data Zone weren't enough, they tried one last desperate time in 1997 with the R-Zone XPG.
Oh, the XPG.
XPG, of course, stands for Extreme Pocket Game, because nothing says 1997 like the word extreme with no E.
Spot on. The XPG was a completely handheld version running on AAA batteries. It lacked the headset entirely, but it returned to the original projection concept.
Wait, so it was handheld but still projected?
Yeah, it projected the display onto a mirrored surface located directly above the controller area.
Yeah.
Tiger was desperately trying to find a form factor, any form factor, that consumers would actually want to engage with without ever improving the core game technology.
So what does this all mean? When you have a primitive, outdated technology wrapped in 4 or 5 different plastic shells, how did the world actually react?
Unsurprisingly, it was an absolute critical disaster. The console was completely panned upon its release.
Yeah, the contemporary reviews were visceral. The source highlights a very specific, deeply critical review by David Jones writing for the Chicago Tribune in November of 1995.
He did not hold back.
No, he didn't mince words at all. He outright called the R-Zone a waste of time and money.
Ouch.
He went much further than just critiquing the repetitive gameplay, too. He actually highlighted the physical toll the hardware took on the user.
That's the part that really sticks out.
Jones wrote that the screen, quote, is hard to see and the controls are very awkward, unquote. And then he added this incredible, highly specific detail.
The warning.
Yes. He warned readers that if you keep the headband on for, say, 5 minutes, you'll have 2 deep lines on your forehead and a headache.
The head unit apparently had extra padding, specifically designed to prevent that kind of pain. But according to Jones, it was a complete failure.
Just a total failure.
His final verdict in a major newspaper was that the R-Zone, quote, should be dumped into the trash can where it belongs, unquote.
That is brutal. To have a major publication tell parents to throw your brand new product in the garbage right before the holiday shopping season.
Devastating for sales.
But there was one publication that offered a slightly different perspective, wasn't there?
There was. The gaming magazine, Electronic Gaming Monthly, commonly known as EGM, offered a slightly more forgiving take, though it came with massive glaring caveats.
Right.
EGM admitted right out of the gate that the display took a lot of time to get used to, and they explicitly stated that it wasn't even in the same league as the Virtual Boy's immersive experience.
Which is really saying something, considering the Virtual Boy is famously considered one of Nintendo's biggest commercial failures.
Exactly, it's a low bar. But EGM's argument was purely economical and practical. They pointed out that at a retail price of $29.99, it was much less expensive than a full-fledged console.
Yeah, how much was the Virtual Boy?
The Virtual Boy cost around $180 at launch.
Wow.
So for a parent in 1995, that $150 difference was huge.
It's the difference between a birthday present and a stocking stuffer.
Precisely.
Yeah.
EGM also noted that unlike the Virtual Boy, which required a dedicated tabletop stand and forced you to lean into it, the R-Zone was functionally portable. You could, in theory, take it anywhere.
You could get a headache on the bus, in the car, or in your living room. The portability was limitless.
True.
But even with that slight defense regarding its price point, the long-term legacy of the R-Zone is incredibly bleak.
Very bleak.
It was entirely discontinued by 1997, a total lifespan of just 2 years, and modern retrospectives have not been kind.
Not at all. Gaming historians look back on it as a fascinating disaster. In 2008, Mikhail Raparaz of the gaming website GamesRadar Plus included the R-Zone on a definitive list of the 10 worst game consoles released up to that time.
Top 10 worst. That's rough.
He perfectly captured the essence of the failure, stating it was essentially just a gimmicky version of the same awful, clicky-beepy LCD games that Tiger had been dumping on the market since the 80s.
Yeah. And in 2016, the tech publication Motherboard wrote a piece calling it perhaps the most infamous product ever associated with Tiger.
Yep.
They noted that while it was similar to the Virtual Boy in some aesthetic ways, the R-Zone was, in their words, much, much worse.
It's a legacy built entirely on frustration. They took these glorified versions of basic alarm clock LCD games, licensed the biggest intellectual properties on the planet to build hype, and tried to trick consumers into thinking they were buying the future with a flashy piece of red plastic.
It is truly the ultimate cautionary tale of packaging over substance. We've talked about the original forehead denting headgear, the massive D-battery chugging super screen, the utterly baffling data zone organizer, and the desperate extreme pocket game.
All in 2 years.
But the core lesson for you listening today is that you simply cannot wrap outdated technology in a trendy new package and expect the public not to notice.
They will notice.
The R-Zone thought it could take 1980s pre-drawn LCD tech, dress it up in 1990s VR headgear, slap a Batman sticker on it, and win the holiday season. And they failed spectacularly.
This raises an important question for us to consider as we navigate today's rapidly evolving tech landscape. Well, the R-Zone failed because it tried to masquerade cheap, primitive technology as a futuristic, head-mounted reality experience. When we look around today, especially at the explosion of modern wearables, smart devices, and the newest iterations of virtual and augmented reality, are there highly hyped gadgets out there right now doing the exact same thing?
That's a great point.
Are tech companies currently hiding basic, outdated technology behind flashy, uncomfortable, and trendy new form factors? It's really worth keeping a critical eye out for the modern-day R-Zones.
That is a brilliant point to leave off on. We always like to think we're so much savvier than the consumers of the past, but the marketing tricks rarely change, only the packaging does. Thank you for taking this journey back to 1995 with us to explore one of the weirdest missteps in gaming history. Until next time, keep an eye on what you strap to your head and stay curious.